good evening to everyone present here today. It's a new week, a new day, and a new event is all ready for you guys. As we enjoy the beautiful Bangalore's weather, let's straight away jump into today's event. I welcome you all to today's webinar, My Garden Story, which is a part of our community initiative. Let me give you a gist about the event's background. As an extension of World Environment Day's celebration, we reached out to our student community and faculties to share their garden stories with us. It was an immense joy reading all your stories. So why not pull out an event just to share our stories with the endeavors with the Mother Nature? So we have here with us your own friends and faculties who are all prepped up today to share their stories with you all. I hope you stay through the entire event and enjoy this. When we thought of having an event of this sort, we thought it would be best for us to invite a persona who considers gardening more than just a hobby, to someone who gardening has become a lifestyle now. We couldn't think of a better person to share her experience with us more than our today's guest. We have with us Mrs. Meenakshi Arun, who is an urban gardener and a gardening guru to many of us on the social media. Being a technology and analytical professional, Meenakshi ma'am has a personal experience of 19 years into gardening. It's a pride that she's our very own Bangalorean, and she motivates many of younger generations into green practices through her workshops, talks, and simple Insta posts. She's an expert in organic terrace gardening who believes in the concept of eat what you grow. And can you believe she grows 80% of the food her family consumes? Without dragging more, let's welcome Meenakshi ma'am. Meenakshi ma'am, we are so glad to have you here. I welcome you to the webinar on behalf of the college.
Thanks so much, Rohit.
Before we begin, if there's anything regarding gardening that you want to ask Meenakshi ma'am, you can drop out your questions in the chat box. I'll ask her through the event. So ma'am, can we begin with you telling us when and how this gardening began for you?
Sure. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I think gardening was always part of life even growing up. I had, both grandmothers as well as my mother very interested with I think great green thumbs, and regardless of the spaces they had, they all grew something. My grandmothers had very full-fledged gardens. My mother, we always lived in an apartment, but she always ensured there was green spaces in every house we ever lived. So that's where it started, and I always used to enjoy it as a child as well. And then when we bought our own home after I got married, moved to Bangalore, at that point it was finally time to start my own garden as well. Yes, I would say back in 2002 is when I started, and the journey for most people is you start with a simple money plant, or these days there's a whole range, right, of insta-worthy plants, so a lot of those, and then you slowly move on. And I think it was the same for about 3 or 4 years, and then I started also growing food, basic herbs and a little bit of fruit trees and so on. And it was a 7-year journey before I started completely investing my time. I think 80% of my time in growing food.
Can you tell us more about your initial days of gardening, like how that?
Sure. So we lived in an apartment, and luckily we had lots of light, and two nice balconies, both east facing, getting enough sunshine throughout the day, and also all the rooms were very well lit. So I used to have a lot of we didn't have the options that you have today, right? In nurseries, if you go into a nursery today, there's a bunch of exotic plants. So I think most of us, we grew plants by sharing, by cutting. I had another neighbor who had been collecting for years. So she used to share some of her cuttings, and that's how it started, right? You don't invest too much. You use what you can get as a shared plant, and so on. And I don't think in those stages it was also about growing a few things that you wanted to use, even if it was an ornamental, right? So we used to have a Nandi Batte tree because we used it for the puja. We used to have mallige flowers for the puja, a couple of rose plants. So initially it was all in the balcony. And then when we started running out of space, we were 3 of us, gardeners in the building, very, very keen. So we started encroaching the terrace as well. And that's when really it all took off, and we started we used to go together to nurseries, buy plants, and the terrace started becoming a really nice green space for the other people in the apartment as well. That's how it all started, right? And when I left the apartment, I think we had one truck just with the plants. So okay, we had about 400 pots that had to come here. Yeah, so it was a great journey, and it was really nice to have those like-minded people as neighbors as well, right? Where they grew with you, they enjoyed plant shopping with you. So that's how it used to be.
To have 400 plants on a terrace is actually a big thing.
Yes,
So,
yes.
did your journey of growing edible plants started when you were doing terrace gardening itself?
It was no. So the whole thing on edible started when I actually, and I've shared this before. We accidentally stumbled on a farm nearby, near our home, where we realized that they were growing all their greens, your palak and dantusapu and all that in sewage water. And that day, my neighbor and I, we were pretty shocked, and we came back and we were like, okay, listen, it's not that it's going to be so hard, so let's start at least growing green, so we're not buying that from outside. So that's how we both started growing mint, methi, pudina, this all your palak, local greens, like and all the amaranth varieties. We started with that, and then slowly, the curry pata came, and then I think the lime tree was my first real purchase. I have a fantastic tree which now in the ground here is, does a great job. And then slowly it became pomegranate. We added fruits first, and then of course we realized that when you, I still remember my first surprise when out of the manure that we had put into the plants, we got tomato plants. And I had never really seen a tomato plant come
Yeah.
up so healthily and so on. So we let it grow, and that was actually our first vegetable harvest, that tomato. And then I realized that in Bangalore, tomatoes just grow like this, right? In this season, I think all of us must be having hundreds of tomato seedlings if we have even a small garden. So that's how it started. And then along the way, it was 2010 when I met Dr. B. N. Vishnath. He's a very famous leader in this space, was a leader. We lost him last year. And getting into that group and community, they were also just starting out on expanding a lot of the workshops they did. The first Uta from Your Tota events were being planned at that point of time. And I still remember, we went from literally having 5 visitors in some of those events where people, would just walk in because they were on a walk somewhere, to we've had footfalls of, over 8,000, 9,000 people. So that's how the movement also grew. And I think I was very fortunate to have a lot of those people as my mentors and friends, and very deep bonds that formed till today, right? And I think gardening is one hobby that really creates a very supportive community. It's there's no space for competition. It's all about sharing, and people are just excited to see a plant grow, right? No matter what kind of plant it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great benefit as a gardener. Of course, you get all the other much talked about benefits like health and putting your hand into soil. There's the connection with nature. So all of that, of course, adds up, right, over the years.
I think for most of us, a tomato plant to begin with has always come out like a surprise. It
Yes.
comes out just in between the manure
Yes.
we have thrown out.
Correct.
Moving from tomato, can you talk about the range of varieties that you have right
Sure. Sure. So today I live in a independent home. We've been here for about 8 years now, and I think I grow the majority of the attention I pay is really, of course, to my vegetable garden and the edible garden. We, as you said earlier, we try to grow as much as we can consume, as we need to consume. And there are very few things that I procure from outside. And even if I do that, it's usually from farmers who I trust and I know grow in safe methods, to support them as well. And the also from the point of view of any kind of ornamentals, flowering plants, everything that we need for our daily use, right? Whether it's the puja or decor or whatever, I have all of that also planned. And so I would say it's a mix of perennials, and then the more attention needing, and vegetables, and some of the annuals as well. So it's a good mix, and every edible garden benefits from also the ornamentals. They are the reason for pollinators to come in. So you have to mix all those elements, right, to make sure that you build out an ecosystem. Different plants are hosts for different insects, different butterflies. So it's been a journey. I mean, a garden is never done, right? It evolves all the time. So I would say that, I don't know. I've never counted how many plants I have or the varieties I have, but I would say that it's sort of represented across the board. One thing I don't really do is, chase those exotic, rare plants or something like that. I'm not really in that. But I do look for, anything that adds green, fills space, brings some value, right, to the local species as well. Yeah, I would say that's what I focus on.
Without delay, can we walk into your garden
Sure.
and view this?
Yeah, so let me bring it up and you just confirm to me. So what I try to do is put together a video where as we go through the video, I'll just voice over.
Yeah, sure.
So let me know if you can see.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the entryway, and this is just to have a touch of green. These are very plants that grow extremely easy, and both of them started from cuttings. I didn't really buy them. And all over my garden, you'll see these little spaces where birds can come and get a drink of water. This is near my entrance. It's a lot of shaded space. It's near it's a northern facing exposure. So it's only this time of the year that it gets direct sun. And if you see those bamboo stands, they're also reused from some of our construction material. And here I have plants that are primarily what you would recognize as indoors or shade. This is the only time of the year that they actually get sun. So this is a space where, you have all of those shade lovers. And then we also, mixed in some of the plants with really colorful leaves. So, crotons, for example, I can't have flowers over here. And I also didn't want something that's going to, demand a lot of attention, which many annual flowers do. So crotons, may, fill that gap. And that's a view of the veranda. So this is a view when we want to just sit, enjoy a cup of coffee or tea. Mornings are usually spent here. And, this whole space is also very cool and calming. So this is, as you see, this overlooks the road. So we also planted a lot of trees with the idea that we get also the privacy, because you do have passers-by or walkers and so on. And there's a mix of medicinal plants. What you're seeing here is Nandivate. There was a vitamin support right there next to it. This is a variegated one just for the interest. And then that's the regular variant. There's a tall hibiscus there. Right next to it is there's a parijata plant there. Then this is a champaka, which again, one of my favorite flowers. And the whole, so this is, as I said, just, something that is evolving all the time. So we wanted to bring more of green space here, and I wanted touches of red. So we just got those. These plants, this gardenia I've had for years now, it's in the rain, it just goes live. And that's a coconut tree planted at the time of construction.
Yes.
These are the what do you call, Vitex plants. And this is a tree, avenue tree in the front, the African tulip. I have trained a bread flower and my Madhumalti up the tree. So this is a season for Madhumalti. Feb to May, I had the bread flower, sorry. And this is the entryway, right? And then we have some boxes in front to, add some more interest and also bring the privacy. So there's bamboo, there is that Duranta, and then the hibiscus falls over. So you can see that no one can really look in, right? And this is from the other side. There's a mallige that is falling over, and then a Zimbabwe creeper, and that's the Nandibate from the other side, right? So it basically hides the window and that space. And then this is a bryophyllum. It's the red Pierrot butterfly feeds on it. You can see my soil. I don't keep it manicured. This is extremely rich mulch from all the dry leaves that fell, just before summer. It cools the soil. It protects the soil. So, and you can see the result, right? Look at the bloom on my night queen on the hibiscus. So it really enriches the earth, right? And then some hanging plants to, also bring that green interest. They're all very easy to grow. I mix them in these huge planters. That's a anthurium variety. There's some Dieffenbachia there. And these are all those large planters where I've just, mixed up things. This is the garage area. This is the entryway as you get into the house. Yeah. So this has got all of these green places. And then facing the road again on the other side, this is again some of our reused bamboo material. So we just got some stands built. They just hang from the roof. And I have a lot of these green pots hanging. So you can see the other side from here. So as you approach the home, this is the view that you see, right? And that's a plumeria variant. You can see these are a lot of these very easy flowers that don't need a lot of water. There's Shankapushpi, that's cosmos. And the reason they're all planted outside is you don't have to keep watering them. They'll survive with just rain. That's a gazania. They're all nectar plants for several insects and butterflies, right? So that's the reason they're there. Those extra, philodendrons you see there, they also help, harbor some of the insects, give them shade. So it's important. And then this is the back inside. This is my Arabian jasmine. It's a really large jasmine, and again more mulch, right? So we don't sweep out things as the trees shed. This is the side, so more native plants. This is an ixora. You have the native pink hibiscus, and then that's a that's a jasmine I really need to train. But this I didn't move this because the beehives were actually forming there, the Apis florea. This is your Jaji Malli, some more hibiscus, and then a little pond. A lot of bees come here. And then I have another pond, which I need to resurrect a bit, but I wanted to save this. Then these are more ixora. That's a pond behind that I need to clean up. And then some more Nandibate, some double hibiscus. And these are also planned so that the view from that window is great. And there you can see a little bird's nest just coming up. Yeah. And this is the jasmine. So when you cross over to the other side, there's another jasmine there. This is my vegetable garden. And we basically use raised beds. These are made of just simple granite slabs, again, it's leftover construction material. And this is a little place where so this is an example of companion planting, right? Where you mix. So this is a guava tree. And at the base of the tree, I've got a mix of marigolds. I've got tulsi. I've got my haldi. I've got also a bit of rosemary growing there. And then there's gourds that are in this bed, but they go over into a trellis on the other side. So those are long bottle gourds. That's a karipata that I've had for many years. And then there's beans in one of the beds. I've just, removed some of the older crop and replaced. Those are sticky traps to manage the whitefly population. There's brinjal. Behind that, you can see a lot of amaranth. I'm just left for seed saving. Brinjals are in full bloom in this season. This is a native tomato. There are more tomatoes I'll be planting soon. And this is, again, things for stakes. I just use old branches. I try to avoid as much plastic as possible. These are again a mix of companions. That's Thai basil along with the brinjals, and then marigold is a huge must have in the edible garden. Those are cuttings. These are chives. That's my vetiver grown with a base pot which is filled with water. It helps the roots grow out. And right next to it is a Kamini creeper. And then as you go up, that's my moringa. We get typically 1,000+ pods in a year, and then it's a continuous supply of your superfood leaves. This is a native lime plant. You can see a lot of the lime, hanging there. So this is all the backyard. And when you build the ecosystem, this is actually a beetle vine, and there's a Apis florea nest there. We had 4 of these this past year. So we didn't trim the beetle vine just because we didn't want to disturb the bees, right? So they feel cozy and cool. They're actually nested in a hibiscus under that. And then some more flowers to bring color into the garden. Some more hibiscus, and then that's mixed in with some brahmi and also some marua. Yeah. There's an old haldi that's sprouted on its own. So this bed actually will have greens. I've planted greens, and that's what will come up now. This is just outside my house, a little piece of land where, again, we used some of the pillars from the construction. You can see some of our old car tires that's hosting some of our new banana plants. And then these are cuttings that I planted last year. You can see they're already flowering. That's a bilva tree growing in a pot. And then this is your Agasti tree. I grow a lot of these trees in pots behind. You can see a mango that's fruiting that's in a pot. It's a grafted variant. And then this bed will actually get pumpkins very soon. And this is a Rajnigandha set that's growing. Okay. Then this is a simple garden composting unit. I have just a bamboo basket where I collect all the waste, and occasionally we add some soil and cow dung slurry. And within 30-35 days, this is done because there's very good aeration. And this goes back. And here you can see my collection of sticks and bamboo, all sourced from in and around the community. Trying to make use of resources that are nearby. This is my husband's latest project. He's trying to make seed shells out of the coconut. This is a what do you call this? Forget the name in Kannada. The citron fruit. Yeah, and we still have heralikai. So we have all the verbena flowering, again a great magnet for bees, for tiny little insects. There's more tulsi. There's tulsi all over my garden because we use it both in puja as well as for it's a great food for many insects. Again, this is a good example of companion planting. So there's beans going up the creeper, up that trellis, and below you have a mix of bottle gourd. There's 2 varieties of greens, bustle. There's marigold, ward off some pests. There is a dantasappu that's growing wild, and then there's brinjal at the back. Yeah. So all this is what companion planting means, where you mix up varieties so that you don't have pest attacks. They feed off of each other. This is amtikai growing in a pot. And you can see even in my pots, you have a tomato coming up with this kumquat. So you can do that, right? And that's how you maximize space. And I'm doing these in pots just so that I can also, share that experience with others, and a lot of terrace gardeners can benefit from it, right? So there are lots of kumquats this season. This is the cherry guava. That's a native rose cutting that's blooming already. And then this is chili grown from market chili. So a lot of people last year asked, can you do this? Here's more example of companion planting, right? So this is your sambar onions, chili, and brinjal, all packed together. The onions will prevent your whitefly attacks and also spider mites and all, which chilies are prone to. So that's how you learn to maximize space while also giving benefic companions to your plants. Then those are figs, again growing in containers. That's the karipata tree seen from outside, quite massive. It's become, this tree was one of my first purchases from the apartment. That's a bay leaf tree. So we are regularly sharing these leaves, and then of course the moringa as well, with friends and family. Yeah, so I thought this is what I had. Yeah.
That was a great tour for all of us. There are a few questions coming by.
Yes.
People are asking for the ones who are staying in apartment, what is the best way to start with growing edible plants?
Sure. So the first thing that you must always start thinking about is the light condition in your apartment. So if you get light for, at least that, when I say light, good, bright, direct light, and preferably the sun also hitting the leaf. If you get that for at least 5 to 6 hours, example, a western facing balcony, or if you have a southwest kind of balcony, then you can even grow tomatoes. You can grow a lot of bitter gourd. You can grow cucumber. You can grow. They all do well. Brinjal will do well. If you have light less than 4 hours, less than 2 hours even, greens would still grow, right? So you can always plant pudina. You can plant methi. You can plant radish also. It can grow a little slow, but it'll still grow. Yeah. So those are things you can grow. I actually have done a very detailed video on Facebook. So if anyone wants to check that out, most of it is documented there. So you should be able to get more detail. But in effect, these are the things you can start with. And it always depends on how well you build your soil and how well you feed the plant, right? So light is primary requirement for edibles, followed by the quality of your soil, followed by how much care you give, right, in terms of ongoing fertilization.
So there's a question with respect to soil nutrition and all that.
Yes.
I heard that coir pit will work good for compost. Is it really true?
Coir pit for compost?
Yeah.
Yeah. So coir, coco peat or coir pit is frequently used as a brown for compost, right? And today in the market, there are people who use just the plain coco peat for mixing your greens and browns, as well as you get microbe injected coco peat, right? Which several brands are selling now. You get both options. See, cocoa peat on its own has no nutrition as such, but it's a good brown to have, because when you compost with cocoa peat, you the output of that composting process gives you an a compost that is a good input into your soil for growing, right? So it helps you build soil structure. So cocoa peat is usually one part of a universal soil mixture, right? So if you got composted cocoa peat, there's nothing like it. But typically, if you don't want to buy cocoa peat and compost, with zero cost, you can use dry leaves, not a problem.
How important is it for us to start composting at home by ourselves?
100%. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Whether you have a garden or not a garden, composting is something you owe to yourself and society, right? Because see, every time any of you, I don't know when was the last time any of you went into any of the roads in Bangalore, but I think it is abundantly clear what kind of a landfill situation we have along the ring roads. Have you walked on any road without seeing trash? Right, it's quite abysmal, the situation right now, and we are causing it if we don't take care of our waste, right? So when you compost, you're basically taking responsibility for 60% of the waste you generate, and you're taking end-to-end responsibility, right? If you don't compost, and let's say wherever you stay, there is a wet waste collection mechanism, you're in an apartment has got composting units in place, you should know where that wet waste is going, right? If you're doing the segregation and you're handing it over only for it to be mixed again, then you are not doing your job. You should hold yourself accountable for it, right? So the only way you're sure that your wet waste is not getting mixed, is not creating a toxic environment in a landfill somewhere, is by making it compost yourself, right? And if you don't have a garden, don't worry about it. There are plenty of gardeners who will take your compost from you. They'll buy it from you, or you can do everyone a favor. Just go to your nearest park and feed a tree, right? So composting is something that each of us needs to do, because I think it's the number one. As a citizen, we need to make sure we keep our cities clean, and that starts with composting.
And to start composting, the first step is to waste segregate.
Absolutely. The first step is the first step is actually refuse.
Yeah.
Right. The first step is to refuse excessive things, see how you can reduce what you buy, refuse things. Like, for example, try to refuse plastic, right? Single-use plastic. That's a no-brainer. If you're having a party, or if you're going to a party, educate people, never ever eat in plastic containers, plastic spoons. That's a no, it's a refuse, right? Next is reduce. So try and reduce consumption, try and reduce the amount of packaging that comes into your home, right? It's very difficult, I know, these days, especially because we're all relying on online delivery. But if you're not able to reduce that, at least make sure you know how to recycle it responsibly, right? So first is refuse, then you try to reduce, then you make sure you recycle. And how do you recycle? The first step is segregation. So you need to start with first understanding the categories of waste, make sure nothing that is produced in your kitchen, right? Whether it's peels, whether it's leftovers, whether it is any garden waste, anything, right? Green waste should not leave your house. Yeah. The rest of your waste, there are ways in which you need to segregate it, make sure paper is recycled in its way, electric waste should not be mixed up, reject waste should not be mixed up. There's a ton of material out there, right? So I would really encourage all of you, anyone who's not doing it already, go find out. There's tons of videos on the topic. And Bangalore does have mechanisms. There's a lot of awareness. So if you're not part of it already, I think you should be, right? It's something you should be proud to be part of, because I think as a city, Bangalore is far ahead of most places in India when it comes to these topics. So be a part of that change. And we need to make sure that don't blame it on the government, don't blame it on the health department, don't blame it on the municipality, blame it on yourself. The reason that plastic packet is lying on the road is because someone like you has bought it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what you need to think about, and that's what we need to start reducing. And it's not something you can stop overnight, right? So don't be hard on yourself. Pick the things that you can, reduce little by little. And where we all started was you just do an audit, right? Start from Start from the minute you wake up. You use a plastic toothbrush. You're using a toothpaste that comes in a plastic tube that's not easily recyclable. Our contribution to all this waste starts there. So start getting that awareness. I think there's a ton of material outside, out there that where you can try to understand not just what is harmful in the long term, but also what you can do today to get alternatives. And when we all started, there were no alternatives. I mean, now I think it's amazing how many entrepreneurs have grown in this space, the kind of options available. So really, there's no excuse, right, to not at least make an attempt.
There's one interesting question, which narrowing down to our subject.
Yeah.
Suggestions for interior gardening, or what plants can be used for interior gardening, which will also help in improving oxygen level.
Sure. So I think there's been a lot of this NASA air purification article that's taken the world by storm, right? You're going to need a lot of plants for that much oxygen to get generated in your house. So you almost need to get a Amazon jungle, right, for you to really get the processing. So it's not ideal, and not many people will know how to manage that level of plants as well. So for interior design, I would, it depends again, as if it's for you personally and you have an interest, then, for sure, go experiment. We have especially folks in Bangalore, you have such a great a climate, right, which supports any kind of plant, and it's growing. But I would always encourage, if you're a new gardener, start simple. Start with plants that are pretty, they're not finicky, they're not worried about light conditions. For example, the entire philodendron family will, pretty much just be happy if you give it water. It doesn't ask for much, right? And they're also not, they're not very exotic as such, right? So try and avoid those plants which are going to really, need your time, your energy, unless you're really into plants, right? So start with something simple. Start with understand the watering needs, because a lot indoor plants can be water hoggers, right? And so you don't, again, from a conserving water perspective, you don't want to spend your time on something that's not something you truly love, but you just got it because it was a fad or something, right? So think about those kind of things. And in reality, there's no such thing as an indoor plant, right? Every plant needs to get its share of the sun. That could be as filtered light like in a forest, or it is direct sun. So you do need to ensure that as you collect your plants, make sure that you have space to give them that light, right? So if you're in an apartment, make sure you have access to the terrace, or you have a good balcony where you have the space to bring them out at least once a week. Keep rotating your plants. If you just stick a plant somewhere and then only water it, it is going to have problems, even if it's a simple indoor plant, right? So think about things like that. And I would always say, start small. Don't go and get 50 plants and then wonder what to do, right? So those kind of things are, something to watch for. But do make sure that you have adequate light. Learn about the plant before you, get something. And my recommendation to any new indoor gardener is the ubiquitous money plant or anything from the philodendron family. Yeah.
I think one last question that I would like to ask you is, in the coming near future, how can you tell us how important it is to start with edible farming?
Okay, I think right now is when you should start, because you already wasted too much time, right? And for that, and why it's important is, somewhere in the last 40 years is when this whole shift away from our villages into cities has happened, right? For us in India, many of us have completely lost connect with nature. And it is sad that, a majority of people don't even have, their grandparents in the villages anymore, right? Everyone has moved to the cities. So you're losing all touch. And even if cities have well-developed parks and ecosystems, how often do you really connect with nature when you go there? You're just going to take a walk or get a run in or something like that, right? So it's very important to understand where your food comes from, right? And that connect with nature, because you cannot you cannot underestimate how much your food is responsible for your health today, right? And when I say food, I'm talking about the food that you get today from outside, whether it is contaminated vegetables, contaminated fruits, all of the pesticides that have gone into it, all of the processing that happens to food that all of us enjoy, but then think about everything that's gone into it, right? So just from that one reason, we need to understand where our food comes from, what has gone into growing it, and what it takes to grow up healthy plant and harvest something from it, right? Unless everyone personally makes that connection, you will not understand what a farmer goes through, right? So and it's even more important for for children to understand that as they grow, right? Now all of you are students, but in as you graduate and you start your families, it's really, really important that your families connect with nature, your children know where their food comes from, right? So at least grow one edible. That's all I would say, right? Start with one edible, make it two, make it three. When you understand the flavor of that spinach, that amaranth, that pudina that you plucked, 5 minutes later you're cooking it. It's you just cannot compare it to anything you buy in the market, right? And we all know it, so we just don't make the effort. But when you make the effort, you'll realize how much it's worth it, right? And for we also have to keep in mind our own personal context and situation. So not everyone has all the space to grow. So what I would say is, one is, see what you can do yourself. If you live in most of us are in apartments or in homes today. If you're in a house with some space, make friends with your neighbor, plan your garden together so that your neighbor grows one thing, you grow another thing, and then you share. That's a way to maximize space. You also start building a community connect, which is so lacking today. Similarly, in apartment, one person has a west balcony, one person has an east balcony. You probably never say hi to each other unless you see each other pressing the lift button, right? Start learning to grow together. Use the light of each house and start building things together. Share that crop, build a relationship. That's how communities are formed, right? And obviously, this is not going to be enough for all your food needs. So start understanding who are those cooperatives, who are those farmers who are making the trouble to buy safe food. Grow safe food. Support them. We all have to reach a stage where we are not calling chemical-ridden farming conventional farming, right? Why do we label food as organic food? All food should be safe, right? The other way, it's the other thing. You should actually be calling anything that's processed or has got chemicals in it unsafe food. Stop calling organic food organic food. That's the mindset, right? We all need to have. We need to refuse, and it's not going to happen when we accept what's being given to us, right? And we only understand the difference when we try it ourselves. So that's what I would say. At least start with pudina. It'll grow in any condition.
I think the best way to start is with the simple suppos.
Absolutely.
That can be grown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was really helpful for all of us to begin with, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sure.
For
my
coming
pleasure.
in for this session. It was really insightful for all of us, and I'm sure it has encouraged most of our students also to take simple steps into gardening. Thank you so much for accepting our request and
my pleasure.
Doing this in between all your busy schedule.
I'll be super happy if everyone in this meeting starts growing one edible, if you haven't already.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you then.
Of the entire management and members.
All the best. Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. After that insightful session, now let's move into our community segment. Let's see what exciting our students and friends have to show us. Let's begin with our first video. Keep guessing who the student is.
Hello everyone, I'm Shreya Giridhar, an interior design student. I have two small gardens in my house. One is in the balcony and the other in front of our main door. Since we stay in an apartment, it's quite small. I've been gardening for a few years now. I usually help my dad in gardening by watering the plants, repotting and rearranging the pots. Basically, my granny was our inspiration. She loved being around plants and she had a quite big garden at her place. Dad and I follow her gardening techniques, especially of making manure at home by vegetable waste. We have nearly 13 varieties of plants in our garden. I spend my early mornings and evenings in the garden. Since my garden is facing the east, early morning sunlight is refreshing to us. Many kinds of plants grow in our garden. Insects, birds, and other few animals find food and make their homes among the plants. Even the soil in which the plants grow is a part of the ecosystem. We segregate all the vegetable waste and add it in a pot, and after weeks we add a layer of mud, and again we add the vegetable waste. This process keeps repeating. This forms a manure and can be added to the pots to have a healthy growing. I usually love reading books sitting on the bench that is placed in our garden. The message to the audience from my garden is we can grow plants in the smallest of place, not necessarily to have a big garden. We can make small spaces look more beautiful by adding plants, and to make manure for plants by decomposing the vegetable waste at home. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir.
That was a wonderful green space, Shreya. Is there something that you want to share with your friends and faculties?
Thank you, sir. The one thing that I would love to share is I don't have a really big garden or something. It's really very small, but still I like it, and I like being around plants because it's very refreshing to us. And no matter how big or small your space is, I think everyone should start at least by having one or two plants at their space. And then that one and two plants will automatically increase.
Shreya, has the lockdown played a major role in your participation in gardening? What's your say on that?
Yes, it played a very big role because mornings and evenings, most of the time at home. Otherwise, I would be busy in college and traveling to college and doing assignments. And now I have a lot of time. So me and dad will keep doing something or the other with plants. And in my granny's place, it's a really big garden. So we can't get all the plants from there. So we're just having limited plants here.
So how does it help you lift up your mood throughout the day? How often do you spend time in your garden?
It's usually in the mornings and evenings. Like between that, I'll have classes, so I can't really go and spend time that time. And in the evenings, usually having coffee and all of that. The bench I showed is also a DIY bench. So we got a tiles for our other house. So all those tiles were transported in that box. Actually, it's a light wooded box. So we painted it into white color, and then we are using it as a bench.
Okay. Thank you, Shreya. Keep this going. We really liked your garden. I hope this has inspired many of your other friends as well. Next, we have another friend who has gone to her hometown due to the lockdown. And from there, she's super excited to share her garden story. It's coming all the way from Punur. Let's get into it straight away.
Hi friends, so this is my small kitchen garden. I started this after lockdown only because when we were so bored at home, we started this. Actually, we have two gardens. This is small kitchen garden, and down we have one more garden for the plants and all that. So this is just a small kitchen garden where we have lemon, and this is a small plant. I don't know the English name for this, and this is pumpkin, and this is also comes with the same flower, and we've kept rose also. This is pumpkin, so this will be pumpkin. There is a lot of pumpkins and coriander leaves there. These are beans and all that, so we've kept all that. So this is the small kitchen garden where where a lot of things have been planted. Hi guys, so this is my other garden. Here we grow a lot of normal god flowers only. So this is Jamandi Poo. This is Cynthius in English. So a lot of that you can see here, because for our season, that is in Nilgiris, this grows really well. So we put a lot of these plants, and we have carnation too. Carnation is mostly exported from Nilgiris, so we even have that. But this is not the season, so it's not growing so much. And these are other varieties of other flowers where it is mostly red in color, and I'm not sure with the names, so sorry. And we even have pudina sometimes, like the small things we have. And we have pudina, and this is one more type of a flower. It grows really well, but now since it's the season is not there, it's growing little less. Yeah, that's all. I can show you the garden in a bigger view. Yeah, and we even make manures, so I like that. Like we don't waste a lot of food, we make that into manures, so we keep doing that. And this is about our 2 gardens. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Shweta. Happy gardening. We saw one of our students at least is into edible gardening and composting. That's been an inspiration to many of us. Now we have someone we all know, someone we all love, your most beloved faculty who's ready to showcase her humble garden. Let's watch this video and know who it is.
Hi, myself Keetana. I welcome you all to my little garden. We started 6 years ago. Actually, we used to celebrate every year Kedargarh festival in our home. So every year we keep that under Kedargarh festival collection. Even we keep the family gardens using the turmeric. After purifying, we have to pour it in the water. But here, I don't like to pour it in the lake. So that is the reason I always keep it in the water. Then the water I pour it in my plants. So I always feel that the goddess Parvati is with me. So that is the reason I will buy the new plant for the remembrance of the Parvati. So like that I started the plant with Tulsi. Then it started growing up like this many plants here. So I would like to tell you what are the plants I have in my garden. So first one is the Tulsi I have. Then we have the rose. We have the button rose. Then 2 different types of jasmine flower. It will come 3 layer of the jasmine. This is the hibiscus flower. Then aloe vera. Then karpuravelli. This is the chilli. Then another one hibiscus. This is a single layer. This is the henna. Actually, I like the henna. That's the reason I have this henna plant. This is lavender. Sangupu we used to pay. This is from my hometown. It will come in the 2 different colors. One is in the white and then blue color. So I have a white color one. This plant is actually it's a very good medicine. People will make a tea in this flower and they will drink it. It's a stress reliever they used to take. If I have any worries or any stress, the plants are my stress buster. Thank you.
Hello, Kirtana ma'am.
Hi.
That was a beautiful, humble garden. How's garden encounters going in between online classes and family?
Actually, mine is the everyday morning. Once I wake up, I'll see my flowers, my
Yeah.
plants. So without seeing, I cannot start my work. They are my, like, I, I, they are like my relatives, friends. More than that, I can tell. I have told they are like, because of the Parvati goddess I kept. I can see every day if it is coming, flower is coming or not, that is secondary. But when I see the green color, no, I'll be very happy actually.
I
So
think
that is
that's the
my,
feeling most of us gardeners have. We can't begin our day without seeing our plants. Can you
yes.
tell us which is your favorite plant in your garden, and is there any story behind it that you would like to share?
Actually, I started with the plant, what we have in the Tulsi. So before I had the Tulsi when I came to Bangalore, but it is not staying a long time. Always it is, die like anything. So whenever it is go, I feel very bad. Then we used to celebrate the festival every year. I have told, right? So after the festival, normally everyone know the Ganesha, they will throw it in the lake, or most of the time I have seen in the road on the tree down and all, they'll keep it. So really I felt very bad. We will pray 3 days in our home, praise a God, all those things. We want good wealth and health, all those things. Then later we are keeping it in outside. We are not even bothered about that. That is, it's look like, one waste on the road. It's really, I felt very bad. So whenever I cross the Alsur Lake, when the Ganesha festival starts, the next day I can see very bad smell will come. So really, I don't like it. So that is the reason I started. Whenever I'll do the Ketara Gauri festival, we used to always keep it in the goddess in the turmeric. So the turmeric after 3 days, we have to put it in the water, any lake or river. But here, I don't like to do it. So what I have to do, I will put it in the water, then I'll use it for the water to the plants. Then because of the goddess Parvati, I want, always pray. That is the reason, the remembrance I'll buy every year one plant at home. So that is the reason it is grown up slowly.
Yeah, that was really a beautiful garden, ma'am. Thank you so much. And also, your presentation had a message for us that all of us can do simple steps to avoid throwing wastes outside, or people, or like how we can avoid putting the Ganeshas on road or other things like that. Thank you so much for
Better
being a part of this.
then I want
Yeah,
to tell you one more thing. So
yeah,
instead of buying the god outside, you can only make it at home. So last year we had in JD also how you can make it in the clay.
yeah.
We had
I
that
think
workshop.
I think that's one thing we all should do.
So you can start at home only. You can use turmeric or you can make it for clay in the small size. You can pray God. Then you can, whatever you want to do it, you can put it in the plant. It won't be waste.
Yeah,
Even you can
that's
remember the God whenever you go to that plant.
that's true. That's true, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Our last presentation for today's evening is our very own active member from 3C community. She has something really strong as a message to give all her students. Without delay, let's see who it is.
Hello everyone, this is Shilpa Malya. I'm a faculty of JD Institute. I teach interior design here, and here is my garden story. I really like just to be existing in these gardens, but as of recently, I also started enjoying planting and making these things. When we moved into this apartment, we have we realized that we have a very limited space for gardening. From that came the idea of doing vertical gardening. So like in our hometown, we had actually experimented with things like orchids and those kind of plants which you can grow with a coconut husk and those things. But here we haven't really gone into that part. So what we try to do is we did with whatever we could. So all these plants that you see, most of them have been through sharing, programs which are there. The program is basically like my cousin. When we go to their houses, there's like a small exchange, and from there you start taking these small stems, and that's how you like we have made this. Few of these plants have come from Kerala. My mom had personally brought it with her when she came from there. Very initial, like a year back, this is not what you would have seen here. It was very empty. Except for like I think 5 to 6 pots here. The rest of which has been made in over the past 1 year. We were always used to having all these earthen pots which were there at home, or we would buy them. And right now, once we moved to Bangalore, and I'm sure all of you agree with me here, we have a lot of plastic waste which is being generated. So I'll just get into the details of how we actually make these things. They are very simple to make. We had a lot of waste, especially plastic waste, which was being thrown away initially. And of course, that's not really a very good thing to do. That's when the whole idea of saving these things for maybe a different purpose, like what you can make with. You would have already seen a lot of DIY videos where people are converting them into maybe like a object in the house, a storage object. Likewise, you can also make it into gardening for gardening purposes. And what we have done is we took these things like shampoo bottles, pet bottles, food containers, and we have colored it and transformed into planters. So some of them have like self-watering mechanisms, which we actually have made using thread, and especially a cotton thread or like a piece of cloth. With that, we have done that. Else you have the regular planters, hanging ones, just the stationary ones, like all that. Mainly we noticed that there was a lot of plastic waste which we are throwing away every other day probably, because we order things from Amazon, we order food, we also like use a lot of things like like shampoo bottles and all that. So why waste? And rather you can save at least the best ones and keep and make some use out of it. This idea came from also seeing a lot of DIY videos during the last lockdown. From there my mom had actually started saving all these particular bottles, especially the ones that she felt like had a really nice shape, or they were looking quite different and things like that. Going on with that, what we did was we converted them into basic planters. Like you have your same pots. Same way, we also made them into just a stationary pot which is there. Some of the bottles, especially the pet bottles, we actually made holes in it and we hung it on the grills of the balcony. We wanted a safer way to make it. Like the easiest way would be to put a grill, but it was already a very small balcony and we didn't really want to make that space look even more smaller. But putting these particular planters, I think, has actually helped us, because it has actually cut off the particular portion, and that's one thing which we did. Then so you have a combination of ropes, or maybe you can use shoestring or any particular scrap thread that you have, which is having a little bit of tensile strength, and with that we just tied it to the grill. So that's how we actually made some of them. Before the pandemic, my parents used to travel back and forth a lot, and there would be times when some of those plants were not getting any water. She also made some self-watering mechanism for using these DIY methods. So in like one of them, you have a feature where you can just put the pet bottle, cut it into half, put one half into the other, and connect it via string, and that's a self-watering. So this works for plants which don't require a lot of watering every day. That's one way you can do it. The other thing what we did was we basically took any of these basic the ice cream boxes or any of those colorful elements, and then we just painted some texture, some pattern onto it, so it looks very vibrant. And along with the colors of the plants, the planters are also looking very nice. It looks nicer by each day. We still have a lot of small things that we have collected. Also, one small thing that you would keep noticing is the number of broken cups which are here. Yeah, they're not intentionally broken, but once we did break many of them, so especially the handle would be gone. That's when you cannot really use a cup. Rather than throwing it away, it was a very nice way to like have a memory of our favorite cup. We have a very strange attachment to it, it seems. We have actually just taken it and just kept it just like that, because sometimes the texture of the cup itself is looking very nice, so we don't really have to do anything. So even that has also been added, and this is the basic idea of what I have done with my garden.
Hello, Shilpa ma'am.
Hi.
That was a beautiful video. Great work. I think, yeah, upcycling is a new mantra for us to move towards sustainability. Can you talk a bit more about how upcycling is important and how it goes hand in hand with gardening?
So basically, like a lot of people are investing a lot of money also in their gardens, and one way to do it is actually to be inexpensive, which is the basic understanding of upcycling. So we can take anything that whatever you see here. There is a lot of things like even that we found a steam inhaler which was broken. Even that got converted into a pot. So, basic idea is whatever you get, just turn it into like if it has a potential to last for a little while, then you can just keep making something out of it. So that's the basic understanding.
Thank you so much for being a part and sharing your thoughts with all of us. Okay, by that, we have reached the end of today's event. I hope we all had fun as well as a lot of information for us to start with. I also hope this has somewhere encouraged our students to at least begin with one plant at their homes. Being a gardener myself, I believe that gardening and buying plants is almost like an addiction. You just have to start and it just goes on. And trust me, when you buy a plant, you just have to bring it home and it automatically finds its place at home. So let's all start with simple steps to begin with gardening. With that, I would also like to thank the entire management for having us host this event. During this tough times, we all needed this some sort of time to spend our time with green and engage ourselves with nature. Thank you so much. Thank you for the PR team who's present here. Thank you all for being a part of this event. Extended thanks to the entire 3C team for the entire support. We have many more interesting events in our back. Keep waiting and have a great week.